Here we have a B20B or a B18B P75 CRV Non Vtec head. We'll talk about all the details like this and also the stuff that we do because someone asked it earlier, and we'll delve into the exhaust and a lot more. Alright, first things first. Finally, we have a Facebook page for the shop, and it's here. And the link will be in the description below. Don't worry about it. But at least finally now, we can go back to daily updates on what we do at the shop and for you guys. So hey, I expect everyone to follow, everyone on YouTube here to follow us on the page. And we'll handle all the inquiries over there. Link will be in the description below, and I'll also pin it in the comments. Okay, now let's head to the subject. Here's a stock casting. Of course, we're going to start here so that you can see what we're talking about and you can follow us along the way. And now here, the exhaust, and now it's a carbide cut. And here you can see we widen the short turn. This aids in the flow bending into the valve. And you can see it here. This is the short turn here. We widen it. But okay, wait, let's invert the picture because even Prodigy Toe, the owner, would always tell me he could visualize it better when it's right side up. So here, the short turn is here, on this area is here. We widen this when we're cutting it with a carbide. Not a lot, but just a bit, just enough, you know, just enough to actually aid the flow into bending it towards the valve into the chamber. That's a big help, and that's what most people would say the short turn work is actually crucial. That's where you gain a lot of flow. And as you can see on the port entry, we barely touched it. We only touched it at the last minute because always the intake ports are bigger than the intake manifold, so we have to port match it after. Now onto the exhaust. Now it's just carbide finished. It's a lot simpler but actually quite difficult to achieve. Here you can't really hog it out because you lose airspeed, but of course you have to try to maintain as much as possible the full circle of the shape of the exhaust, right? Exactly like the exhaust valve and the valve seat. It's possible you can reshape it, but the thing is the exhaust flow will contour or will comply to the shape that you do, but that at the expense of it consumes energy. And what energy you say? Exhaust speed. So it slows down the more shape you change or whatnot. So we try to maintain this a full circle, just like the exhaust header, the well-tuned header that you use. The ports has to actually be round, not as big of course, but round, so it consumes less energy. It just flows out really quick. That makes it an efficient exhaust system. And we share all this not really to just promote DIY. The shop doesn't do that. What we're trying to do is give more awareness to customers so that they know where to go, not just to us, but to actual proper shops. This way they can avoid the dubious shade tree shops that's all hype and no actual work. You know, unless you live in Nicaragua, then you know maybe a DIY would work, but I'm pretty sure there's still good shops in that place in Nicaragua. And that's because locally I know someone DIY'd an exact same setup as Jasper, this one, and actually it just made 215 or 212 wheel horsepower, and guess what? 13.4 or 13.5 seconds. That's like a freaking 1 whole second slower than what we did. But exactly the same parts, right? They replicated it. That's because they don't do what I do, what shops do. So hey. So maybe they saved on labor, but they spent exactly the same amount on parts and ran a full second slower. So sure, they saved up on labor because it's DIY, but was it worth it? Being a full second slower spending on the same exact parts? I don't think so, right? And locally, out of 10 shops, there's maybe 7 dubious ones, but there's always like around 3 or 4 legit, really good shops. And one of them is above 500 RPM tuning and performance shop. This is owned and run by Ednel Heshan, and I've known him since college days. We weren't friends back then because we were on rival teams, but for him to he still continue doing what he does until now, all these years, means he's doing something right, and I know he does something right. So you can check out their page. They're in Banawe, so they got all the good stuff too. So, and also on the SOHC video I did before, I mentioned that downshift supply was in Marikina. They actually now moved to the same facility as above 500 RPM. So check them both out and check their pages. Hey. And also Unknown Auto Works down in Valenzuela. They do under chassis work, body works, and even paint, and actually even exhaust. They do stainless work, so it's pretty good. The owner actually built a killer B20 VTEC on Pro 3 cams and Ultra Street intake manifold. We actually degreed it, but he all built the whole engine, so you guys be aware of that soon. Now let's continue. Let's head on to the porting bench and do the finishing touches of the head. Now here we are at the exhaust bowls. We're doing 120 grit because we got done with 80 grit earlier on. So yes, you have to use the throat seat and actually the throat for reference to actually be able to work on the bowl consistently. This way it tapers inward to the valve seat. Well, that's how we do it. So, just in case everyone is wondering. Okay, now we flip the head. Now we're gonna work on the intake short turn. As we showed earlier, we've widened this with a carbide, so now we're smoothing it out, getting all the contours right and good. This way the bend gradually gets to the valve seat, to the valve job. Yeah. Okay, now onto the port floors, and you can see we're smoothing it out with the 120 grit. It's starting to look really, really good, right? Of course, you make sure there's no bumps or ridges. This way, flow just goes through it really quick. And now here we are. We go invert the head and work on the roof. Actually, to tell you the truth, exhaust travels upwards as it exits the chamber. So you can either manipulate it to change direction and waste energy, or take advantage of that phenomena and contour it properly to guide it out. This is why not many people talk about how to work on the exhaust ports. Either they keep it a secret, or if you ask them, you would know. If they start giving you vague answers, they probably don't know what they're talking about, right? That's up to you to decide. Okay, now here we are with the intake floors. With the port floor, we're trying to blend it out and, shape the floor well so that it easily blends to the sides, or the sidewall, sorry. Because later we're gonna blend the roof onto the sidewalls. This way, it'll be one whole uniform port altogether. So there, we got the floor really going good now. All right, now we gotta invert the head and start working on the roof. Okay, now here you can see I work on the port sidewalls and then into the roof, or onto the roof. This way it blends really well from the side and the roof, which is the bottom right now in this view. This is crucial because you try to maintain airspeed at the roof, because the short turn, which is the floor, always has the higher airspeed, and you try to get the equalized flow. This way, the quality of the flow is gonna be good. Now it's all done. Let's look at it close before we wash it up and head to the workbench. Now we unclip the phone and look closer before we wash it up with soapy water and dry it up with air. Oh yeah. Let's have it cleaned up so you guys can see it better, especially the short turn. All right, here we are now. Let's look at close on the short turn of the exhaust port. You can see that there, you see. And actually, when you look at ported heads, try to feel that area, because when they try to clean up the throat and then they work on the floor on the other side, it'll start to have corners, and you try to remove that or try not to do that, and it gets hard and not everyone can actually do it properly. And now let's turn the head and let's look at the short turn of the intake ports. A lot of people concentrate on the throat and the floor, and then of course they have a hard time connecting it under, then it becomes a corner. That's not good for flow. Now look at close. You can see there, it's blended well from the throat into the short turn and toward the floor. This takes a lot of work to be able to blend the short turn really good, but you know, you can lose or gain a lot of flow in this area, so the work there is well worth it. And now we look at the intake ports from the entry itself. It's all finished. Yes sir, now it looks really good, right? Yes. Now we look close with better lighting. Let's go. Oh, would you look at that? Oh yeah, it looks really good. And you can see the bowl is blended well into the throat or onto the throat, but at the same time, it actually blends well to the port sidewalls, even the short turn, especially the short turn. You know, and so when we start using this, or when we decided to use this, we're gonna change the guide so everything is gonna be good and ready. You can actually see the short turn right from the bowl, the short turn, and the port sidewalls. You can see the light which is showing you the proper curves or the curves that are achieved. You can see here, you can actually see the bowl really well. Let's lower the camera or the phone a bit. There you go. You can see the short turn, right? That's pretty consistent and it's wider than in stock form. Yes. Now let's look at the intake short turn again with a better focus, because earlier we couldn't see it properly. Here now it's focused a lot better. Well, a lot better than earlier. And you can see it's blended well from the throat to the short turn and to the port wall, right? Yes sir, yes sir. This is actually gonna be performing really good and efficient. So now let's look at the exhaust ports up close. Yes sir, it's all ready. There you go. Let's focus the phone. Yes, you can see the bowl is blended well into the port sidewalls, even the short turn, even the divider, right? And this is why checking this with light like this is important, because you can see the glare. If there's bumps and ridges, you will see it. The glare won't be like consistently curved. Look at on the port sidewall, it's curving gradually. That's because the port shape is proper. Yes sir, you can see that's the roof, which is the bottom, of course, because the head is inverted. That's the short turn. Looks good, right? Let's be focus again. Now adjust the light and look at the short turn. See, that's blended well. This is gonna be really good. I know it. Now let's check the exhaust from start to finish. The carbide and the finished. You can see it's gone really good, right? On the angle here on the sideways, then carbide, and then the finished exhaust ports. Okay, now let's head on to the intake ports. And here's the stock casting, and then the carbide. You can see we strategically widened the short turn, and now the finished. Yes sir, now it looks really good, including the bowl. And on this angle, you can see we strategically roughed it out, and then there you go. You can actually see the port sidewall and the port finish, right? And actually, you know, after I'm done with the all motor SOHC project, instead of building a B Vtec, I'm actually strongly considering building a B20 Non Vtec power machine. Well, you know, just an all-out B20 Non Vtec. That is also the reason why I'm developing this cylinder head, because this is my spare. So who knows, you know, this might be back into a build sooner than later. And that's one of the main reasons why you guys should subscribe. This way you're updated, and of course like the video. This way it gets spread out, and for you guys to take care of the binge watching urge, of course a playlist would help, and that is gonna be right here.